Guess who's back for the new year? That's right. That's that golden voice you used to, but you ain't here in a little minute. This is the J.Raw Wrestling Podcast on the One Struggle Radio Podcast Network. And it's yours truly, your boy J.Raw. And coming with a brand new edition. This time it's episode 18. And I'm pretty much going to be doing a recap of all the AEW stuff over the past week. That includes the pay-per-view Revolution, also Dark and Dynamite and BTE. Also be recapping Impact and ROH and New Japan. Also be giving you guys some news and stuff like that. All right, so before we get started, first and foremost, you know, you got to get the plugs and the shout outs out the way real quick. Of course, got to shout out my partner in crime, DJ Hardcore from DJ Hardcore Productions, and got a showcase coming up in April, of course, and that'll be April 10th. Same location at 54 Maplewood Mall. Right here in the Germantown section of the 215. So you make sure you come out. It's actually going to be two shows. It's going to be a urban spoken word and also a comedy show that night. So make sure you go on eventbrite.com and check out the early bird specials and VIP packages and stuff like that. All right. And as y'all heard in the beginning, got a little perk thing going on. Yours truly, y'all already know where I'm at with the music side of things. So decided to start the new year off with new theme music for the show. Hope you guys enjoy it. And if you up-and-coming artists that do listen to this podcast and looking to from production work, make sure you email me at the number one STRUGGLE radio@gmail.com, and I'll let you know the prices on the beats and recording and things like that. All right, so without further ado, real quick, gonna give a shout out to all the wrestling Facebook groups that your boy involved with. Shout out to Wrestle Cave, also Wrestling Marks Worldwide and True Hills. Shout out to Sid Puller. And also my man White with Wrestling Marks Worldwide. Definitely got to give him a shout out. So, all right, now I got the shout outs, the plugs, and everything out the way. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started with this AEW block for last week. I'm going to go ahead and start off and recap the pay-per-view Revolution, which was last Sunday, which was a Dynamite pay-per-view. I'm going to do my best to try to do a quick recap of this pay-per-view, not to bore you guys, and y'all probably had 1,000 recaps and, breakdowns of this, but this your boy's breakdown this time, do the work and stuff like that, especially y'all see how long it's taken me to even record episode 18. But you guys bear with me, you enjoy what I bring to the table. So here we go. All right, so I'm gonna start out with the buy-in match, which was Rio and Thunder Rosa. Oh, real quick, shout out to Fightful, my man and my people's SRS and Jimmy Van Zandt. That's where I get a lot of my news and information. Make sure you subscribe to Fightful Select and check them out. All right, so back to recapping the buy-in match. All right, and that was Rio and Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker and Maki Itoh. Now the match ends when Britt knees Rio in the face and stomps her before hitting a butterfly suplex for two and choking Rio in the ropes before getting Rio the hot tag to Rosa. Then Rosa drops Britt and hits a running clothesline in the corner into a meteora before hitting a running clothesline and drop kick and hits a butterfly suplex into a running senton for two. Now, Maki and Britt double team Rosa before Maki hits a falling headbutt for 2. And Rosa comes back with a stunner before Rio comes back in and hits a move until Maki goes up to the top and misses a diving headbutt. Now, Maki locks in a half crab before Rio gets to the ropes for a break before they exchange strikes until Britt hits an air raid crash for a near fall that Rosa breaks up. Now, Rosa and Britt exchange pins attempts until Rebel distracts Rosa and Britt accidentally hits Rebel before Rosa hits a DVD for a near fall that Maki breaks up. Rebel then hits Rosa with her crutch when Britt sends Rosa into her and gets out of the way for the pin to win. And there you have it. Britt Baker and Maki Itoe goes over on Thunder Rosa and Rhea via pinfall. Alright, so next up is the main show. And before we get to the main show, we get a graphic for the passing of Jim Crockett Jr. Alright, so to start off the main card, we get the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. The Young Bucks, the champs, versus the challengers, Inner Circles, Chris Jericho, and MJF with Wardlow. Alright, now the match ends when Matt gets the 2 off an inside cradle before a super kicking Chris when he goes for the Judas effect before Chris locks in a Boston Crab and Matt flips him away. MJF gets 2 off of a backslide before hitting a sit-down powerbomb for 2 and gets 2 off of the clutch as Chris hits Nick with a code breaker. Wardlow distracts the referee before Chris hits Matt with the bat and MJF hits the Heat Seeker for a near fall before Nick accidentally hits Matt with the Enziguri. The Bucks then win with the Meltzer driver for the pin and go over. And there you have it, the Young Bucks retaining and going over on the Inner Circles, MJF and Chris Jericho via their finisher, the Meltzer driver. Alright, so next up, we get the Casino Tag Team Royal match. Alright, so Dark Order's 5 and 10 start things off with the Natural Nightmares before Santana and Ortiz come in next. And QT eliminates 5 before Matt and Mike Saddell come in next. And more Dark Order members come in with Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. Mike is eliminated before the Gun Club enters next. And Matt eliminates as Seidel brothers are now eliminated before Varsity Blondes come out next. The Gun Clubs are next to be eliminated by QT before QT eliminates itself and Bear Country come out next and eliminates Stu. Jurassic Express come out next and Jungle eliminates Ortiz before Santana is next to be eliminated before Uno is eliminated. The Butcher and the Blade come out next and eliminate the Varsity Blondes and the Dark Order before Bunny helps B&B eliminate Dustin and the Natural Nightmares. Now, Private Party comes out next before SCU comes out. Lucha and Bear Country are eliminated before the Death Triangle comes out and eliminates Blade and Quinn. The third Dark Order team of Reynolds and Silver come out and eliminate Cassidy and Private Party before Butch is eliminated. Daniels is eliminated by Phoenix before Reynolds is sent out, and Kaz next before Silver is eliminated. Is down the Death Triangle Jungle Boy before Pac is eliminated. Ren then sends Jungle out of the ring before hitting a suicide dive, and Jungle super kicks before turning him inside out. Ray super kicks Jungle over the top and down onto the floor before eliminated in the win. And there you have it. The Death Triangle win the Casino Tag Team Battle Royal. And Ray Phoenix is the last to eliminate Jungle Boy that earns them the shot for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And overall, I like the concept of this tag team battle royal match. And it was good to see Rey Fenix and Pac get the win. I'm not gonna lie, I would have liked to see the story evolve and somehow either Silver and Reynolds win, or maybe Private Party. But it's good that, you know, Rey Fenix and Pac had a chance to get the win for this special type of elimination tag team match. All right, so after that, we go backstage to Paul White, who's being interviewed when he gives a hint on the talent being signed with AEW. All right, so next up, we have the AEW Women's Championship match. Hikaru Shida versus Ryo Mitsunami. Now, the match ends when the two exchange strikes until Ryo hits a Sao suplex and a spear into a dive for a near fall before Hikaru counters with a Falcon Arrow. Hikaru hits an Igizuri into a dragon suplex before Ryo lands a lariat from behind and Hikaru, a Falcon Arrow before hitting a flurry of strikes into another Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Ryo clothesline Hikaru when she goes for her finisher before Hikaru hits a running knee lift, and the two exchange strikes for a near fall before Hikaru hits a Shining Wizard for a near fall. Hikaru then pins Ryo with a whirlwind kick for the win. And there you have it. Hikaru Shida defeats Ryo Mitsunami to retain her AEW Women's Championship. All right, now after the match, Nyla Rose comes out and attacks both of them before Britt and Maki joins in on the beatdown, and Britt and Nyla face off before Thunder Rosa comes out and saves Hikaru and Ryo. Now after the match, Nyla comes up. Sorry, said that. Must have wrote that twice like an idiot. All right. Oh, sorry, everybody. All right, so next up is the match with Miro and Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford versus Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy. All right, Miro and Kip attack Orange Cassidy and Chuck before the match backstage, before Miro drags Chuck to the ring and brutalizes him as the match gets started. Now, once the match starts, Chuck is double teamed until he gets the tag to Orange, who makes his way down to the ring before he sends Kip out of the ring. Orange hits a suicide dive into a diving cross body for two before Kip comes back with a series of knees and a driver for two before Chuck gets the blind tag. Now Chuck hits Kip with a pile driver for a near fall that Mira breaks up before Orange hits a flurry and Penelope gets onto the apron. Miro then sends Orange into Penelope and knocks her off the ring apron into the barricade before Miro hits Chuck with kick and locks in a camel clutch for a tap in the win. And there you have it. Miro and Kip Sabian go over on Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy via pinfall. Hold on a sec, peoples. Alright. Sound a little better. Okay. So next up, we have the big money match. Matt Hardy versus Hangman Page. Winner gets the loser's first quarter earnings. I said it backwards. All right. So the match ends when they spill into the outside where Page hits a moonsault and tosses Matt back into the ring before hitting a diving cross body off the top rope for two. Now Adam hits a snapmare into a sliding clothesline before Matt hits a razor's edge sit down powerbomb for a near fall before Adam hits the last ride before a private party get on the apron and distract the referee. Page then takes out both members of Private Party before Matt hits a side effect into a twist of fate for a near fall. Before Dark Order comes out and help Page before he hits the buckshot lariat for the pin and the win. And there you have it. Hangman Page goes over on Matt Hardy via his finisher, the buckshot lariat. Now after the match, Hangman celebrates with the entire Dark Order. Alright, so next up we have the TNT Championship #1 contender ladder match, aka the face of the Revolution. Alright, so you have Scorpio Sky, Cody, Penta El Zero Miro, Lance Archer, Max Caster, and a surprise entrant who turned out to be Ethan Page. Alright, now the action spills to the outside quickly as Matt and Sky exchange in the ring before Lance takes them out with a ladder, and Sky hits Penta with the German. Max clears the ring before Cody takes him out on a ramp, and Cody and Ethan take out Lance by sending him into the ladder set up in the ring. Penta launches himself off the ladder, propped against the ropes, and takes everybody outside the ring before Ethan hits Lance with a cutter on top of the on top of the ladder. Ethan traps Lance in the ladder before Penta hits a backstabber, and Cody knocks him off the ladder before Cody is injured and then helps him to the back. Now Max nearly grabs the literal brass ring and gets knocked off before he exchanged with Scorpio on the opposite sides of the two ladders. Scorpio then hits Penta with a diving neckbreaker off the ladder before Max stops Ethan from grabbing the ring and hits a sunset bomb off the ladder. Scorpio throws Max into the ladder before slamming onto it and hitting a frog splash onto Max onto the ladder. Lance sends Scorpio off the top, crashing on the ladder, propped up on the apron by the barricade, which bends in half. Penta and Ethan exchange off the top of the ladder before Cody comes back out and whips everyone with his belt, hitting Ethan with a crossroads. Lance hits a superplex off the ladder before Max hits a diving elbow drop and brings a taller ladder in the ring before exchanging with Penta. Lance slams Max onto the ladder before Ethan low blows him, hits a razor's edge before he's sent out of the ring by Jake, who's super kicked by Penta. Penta hits Cody with a chair, shoves him off the ladder before Scorpio hits him with a chair, and Cody and Scorpio exchange onto the opposite sides of the ladder. Scorpio then knocks Cody off the ladder and grabs the brass ring. And there you have it. Scorpio Sky wins by climbing the ladder and grabbing the brass ring. Alright, so next up, it's the time to reveal AEW's new assignee, who is none other than Christian Cage, aka Christian, who used to be in WWE. Everybody know that. Alright, so now I'm gonna tell y'all this now. This is my hot spot of the week, but we gonna get into it. And that's this street fight with Darby Allin and Sting versus Team Taz, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Alright, so Brian and Ricky drive to the warehouse where the fight takes place before they get into the ring is set up in the middle of the building. Sting and Darby come out next, with Sting driving and Darby riding a skateboard to the fight before Darby grabs on the back of the truck and they arrive together. Now Darby and Sting and their army come into the ring and they get inside as the army surrounds the ring before they pair off and brawl. Now Darby gets tossed out of the ring before Sting is double teamed and Cage takes out several of the Army before Bryan sends Darby into the post. Sting comes back and drops Ricky repeatedly before hitting a Stinger Splash into a Snake Eyes as Bryan throws Darby through a doorway. Now Sting chases Ricky with a bat before throwing the bat and beating him against the wall before Bryan slams Darby into a trash can. Sting and Darby double team Bryan before Ricky shows up and even the odds, and Bryan accidentally hits Ricky before Bryan fights off both Sting and Darby. Sting sprays Bryan with a fire extinguisher before Darby hits him with a bottle, and they temporarily take out Bryan as Ricky comes back. Now the other two members of Team Taz show up and they lay out Darby before Bryan and Will sling Darby through a window pane against the wall. Bryan hits Sting with a shovel before Darby tosses him a bat, and Sting takes out Bryan by breaking it over his back and hitting him with the shovel. Now, by far, this is my hot spot of the week. Literally hot spot. Darby dives off the top of the platform and crashes through the pad before we go back to Sting and Ricky in the ring, where Ricky spears Sting for a near fall. Now Sting then hits Ricky with the Scorpion Death Drop in the pin to win. And there you have it. Sting and Darby Allin go over and defeat Team Taz, Ricky Starks, and Brian Cage via pinfall, which was an amazing street fight. Alright, so now we get the main event, but before the main event, we get an announcement of Double Nothing, which will be AEW's next pay-per-view, May 30th. Alright, now, the pay-per-view's main event, and that is the AEW World Championship match, which is an exploding barbed wire death match. Kenny Omega the champ versus Jon Moxley the challenger. Alright, now, Kenny and John tried to push each other's faces into the barbed wire before they exchange strikes until Kenny locks in and holds onto the side headlock. They both nearly go into the barbed wire before going toe-to-toe and brawling before John clotheslined Kenny over the top rope onto the stage. John hits a side Russian leg sweep with the barbed wire back onto the stage before hitting Kenny with the kendo stick, and Kenny gets back into the ring. Kenny throws powder in the eyes of John before throwing John into a barricade, into the barbed wire, ropes that explode on contact before hitting him with a kendo stick. Kenny sends John into a trash can and locks in a figure four before John grabs a barbed wire chain and saws away at the legs of Kenny to get free. Kenny then sends John through the barbed wire in the corner before hitting a moonsault for two, before hitting him with the kendo stick. John sends Kenny into the exploding barbed wire ropes several times before hitting a Saito suplex onto the barbed wire in the corner. They counter each other's finishers before John hits a side slam onto the chair covered in barbed wire before wrapping barbed wire around his arm. John turns Kenny inside out with a lariat before Kenny hits a snapdragon into a trash can and a V-trigger before John clotheslines him. Kenny sends John into the ropes before the referee check on the eyes of Kenny, and John and Kenny exchange on the apron. John hits the paradigm shift off the apron onto an exploding barbed wire board before John hits Kenny with a barbed wire follow-up a power driver for two. Kenny hits a power bomb for two before hitting a V-trigger and a one-winged angel that an exploding barbed wire ropes break up. The Good Brothers come out and get attacked by John and attack John with a barbed wire bat before Kenny hits John with an exploding barbed wire for a near fall. Kenny hits a one-winged angel onto the chair and we get the pin to win. And there you have it. Kenny Omega retains and go over on Jon Moxley and keeping his AEW World Championship via his finisher, the One Wing Angel. Now, after the match, Kenny Carl and Doc attacked John before handcuffing him and ripping his forehead open with a barbed wire as the timer reached 2 minutes. The alarm sounds as the timer goes off under 1 minute before they leave John in the ring with 30 seconds to go before Eddie Kingston comes out to save John. Eddie then covers John as the ring explodes. Homage to the exploding ring match involves an Asui Otani in his FMW promotion. Alright, so that was the recap of the AEW pay-per-view revolution for last Sunday. Overall, I'm going to give it, I did give it 8.5, and the only reason why, because if it wasn't for the anticlimactic end, I would have gave it a higher grade, but overall it was a good pay-per-view. Alright, so next up in the AEW block, we got the BTE recap. But before I do the recap, going to take a quick water break and actually a restroom break, and then we'll get into the rest of the AEW block. Alright, peace. Alright, we are back from the little restroom and water break. Nah, but seriously, it is the J.Raw Wrestling Weekly Podcast. This is episode 18. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. Give me about 10 seconds to fix something. There we go. Much better. Much better. All right. So, we're going to pick up in the AEW block where I left off. But real quick, want to give a quick shout out to DJ Hardcore Productions. Got a showcase coming up April the 10th. Spoken Words and Herbs. And also a comedy showcase. Going down right there at 50-foot Maplewood Mall, right here in the Germantown section of Philly. All right. So, without further ado, don't forget you can go on eventbrite.com to /DJ Hardcore Productions. Make sure you check out the early bird packages and also the VIP packages. All right. So, let's get into it. We're going to go ahead and do the BTE episode recap for last week, which was March the 8th. All right, so the episode starts out with Mac Jackson saying he's picked up a new hobby at home and he wants to give some of the guys a few skateboards. Matt then realized he only got decks, but he needs the wheels and trucks. All right, so Matt, Nick, and Brandon seen traveling while signing items for fans. Alright, so next up you have the Good Brothers chat with Brandon Cutler, who seems to have an erection he can't get rid of. Doc and Carl reveal they snuck some Viagra, but it was a week ago. Then they give him some tips on how to find a proper release. Ryzen talks with Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose. Rose says donations are going great, but she's tired, so she needs to figure out a better plan. They can't seem to think of anything. Ryzen finally comes up with a church merch to sell to rich people. Backstage clips of Shaq getting ready for his match on Dynamite. Shaq ends up entering the ring between the middle and top rope instead of going over the top rope. We see Paul White react in the back, and he's very much okay with that. He still goes over the top rope for his entrance. Matt Jackson's at home showing his son how things will go on Dynamite with some Young Buck action figures. The Good Brothers and Cutler are back at the hospital. Cutler just seen sleeping away as Doc and Carl talk. Young Bucks show up and thank them for their help, but they wonder why the tables were needed, especially when they have a big match on Sunday. Doc and Carl talk about Cutler's erection again. Doc does his best Vince McMahon impression. Matt and Nick sign a bunch of posters before Revolution. Matt felt like there was a buzz going around the venue and hotel. Matt says about 1,400 fans will be there, the biggest they had since the pandemic took hold. All right, so next up, clips are shown from matches at Sunday's AEW Revolution. Next up, the Dark Order talk about how they had 3 chances in the Casino Tag Team Royal, but came up short. The group rips on each other until Tipsy Page shows up. Then asks Page how much money he's getting from Matt Hardy's winning the big money match. Page says it's 6 figures. The group talks about how they brought Page all these items but charges to his account. Page says he ended up telling AEW to give the money away after buying much needed lawnmower. So if they brought him all that stuff, he's going to need to make a quick call. Page heads off and the guys realize they forgot to ask Page about paying for Ander's shoulder surgery and talk about how no woman can replace them in the group. So a surprise shows up and it's Maki Igatoe, and she yells surprise and meffers, and the group goes nuts. Now Private Party heads to Matt Hardy's hotel after the pay-per-view. The group and Hardy both lost their respective matches. Hardy opens up the door and isn't in a good mood. Hardy holds up some grapes and eats them while staring blankly at them. They tell him he doesn't need to eat those. Hardy slams the door in their face. All right, and that was BTE for last Monday. All right, so next up is the quick recap for AEW Dark, which was Thursday, March the 9th. All right, so like I said, it's just going to be a quick recap. Not going to go into detail of the dark matches because usually they be like 30 of them. But this episode, good thing it wasn't 30 of them. All right, so it starts out with Angel Fashion versus Powerhouse Hobbs with Hook. Winner Powerhouse Hobbs. You have SCU, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels versus Arizel and Danny Limelight. Winners is SCU. You had Pretty Picture, Cesar Bononi and Peter Avalon and Ryan Nemeth, versus Aaron Solo, Brick Aldridge, and Dean Alexander. The winners, Pretty Picture and Ryan Nemeth. All right, you had Black Baron versus Lee Johnson. The winner was Lee Johnson. Next up, you had Aaron Fry, D3, John Cruz, and Vary Morales versus the Dark Order. Coco Cabana, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and Alex Reynolds. The winners were the Dark Order. Cameron Stewart and Ryzen versus Varsity Blondes. Your winners were Varsity Blondes. You had a women's match, Diamante versus Savannah Thorne. Your winners, Diamante. Next up is Fuel de la Soul versus QT Marshall with Nick Camaroto. Winner is QT Marshall. Next up, Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford versus Carly Bravo with Captain Sean Dean. Winner was Kip Sabian. Abaddon versus Catalina Perez. Winner was Abaddon. And then last but not least, you had Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela versus Proud and Powerful, Santana Ortiz, and your winner was Proud and Powerful. All right, that was the quick recap for AEW Dark, which was last Tuesday, March the 9th. All right, so last but not least, in this AEW block, we got the recap of Dynamite, which was March 10th, which was last Wednesday. All right, so Dynamite starts out with Ray Phoenix with Pac versus Matt Jackson with his bro, Nick Jackson. All right, now the match ends when Phoenix gets back into the ring when they count was at 9. Jackson then does a massive elbow drop that Shivani compared to Randy Savage. Matt then puts Phoenix into the sharpshooter, but Phoenix makes it over the ropes. Jackson going for a third time, but then Phoenix gets out of it. Phoenix is against the ropes and he avoids the charging Matt Jackson. Matt accidentally kicks his brother Nick. Pac walks over by Nick and Matt and then they hit Pac with a super kick. Matt then gets back into the ring and hits Phoenix with 2 super kicks, and he goes for the third, but then Phoenix blocks it and come back with a huge kick to the head off of Matt Jackson. Phoenix then hits the Fire Thunder Bomb and gets the pin to win. So there you have it. Ray Phoenix with Pac goes over Matt Jackson with his brother Nick. All right, now after the match, they go to a promo with Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. Kingston says it was embarrassing, but pretty much said it is what it is. Kingston then tells Omega that life is not a video game, and Moxley says he better make better bombs in 4th grade. And he glad he got his drinking buddy back, and he's happy again. Moxley said he's glad that Eddie didn't get blown up, but Moxley wants to see something blown up. They come back and they show highlights of AEW Revolution. All right, so next up we get a match with Cody Rose with Arn Anderson versus Seth Garza. Cody is out, and before the match, he walks over, jumps the guardrail, and hands a weight belt to a fan of special needs. Cody then gets back into the ring and takes down Seth Garza right away. Rose slams him down again and then puts him in a figure 4. Garza taps. Rose win in just about a minute. And there you have it in a squash match. Cody Rhodes going over on Seth Garza via the figure 4. All right, so Tony comes to the ring and interview Rhodes, but Penta El Zero cuts him off and tells Rhodes he's much better than him. Penta says that if it was just him and Rhodes that he would have won. Penta has an interpreter, and the interpreter says, Penta says, you're lucky he didn't focus on you, because if he did, you wouldn't have been able to hold your baby girl. Cody then goes off after Penta, and multiple wrestlers have to break them up. Tony Schiavone is now in the ring and introduced Sting for an interview. Tony tells Sting it was a great match, and Sting then says how great Darby Allin is. Then we get the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer, and Jake Roberts interrupt the interview and say they didn't need a TNT Championship ladder match to prove that he's the face of TNT in AEW. Sting pretty much ends it right away and says, Tony, I'll see you next time. All right, so after the Sting and Murder Hawk promo, we get the match between All Ego Ethan Page debut versus Lee Johnson with QT Marshall. Now, the match ends when they come back from commercial break, and Ethan Page still controls the match. But Lee Johnson hits Page with the neck breaker and then hits Page with a blue thunder bomb. Page recovers nicely and hit a stunner after basically tossing Johnson off the top rope about 12 feet. Referee Bryce Remberg is checking on Johnson as he showed potential knee injury. This doesn't stop Page from hitting Johnson with a massive boot followed by the Ego Bomb. Page then pinned Johnson to get his first victory in AEW. And there you have it. All Ego, Ethan Page goes over on Lee Johnson via his finisher, the Ego Bomb. Alright, so after the match, Page attacked Johnson some more, but Marshall watched on. Dustin runs out to make the save and then look over at QT and says to him, "What are you doing, Marshall?" And he doesn't have an answer and walks away. They come back with Tony Schiavone promoting his upcoming interview with Christian Cage, but Kenny Omega interrupts. Omega walks out of the ring and he's followed by the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, and Don Callis. Omega gets in the ring and multiple fireworks go off. Don Callis begins talking about how great Omega is, and he tells the crowd that "I'm sorry you will not hear from Christian Cage." Callis says everything went to plan, but Omega stopped him and says that's not everything that went to plan. Callis says we're happy that people didn't get what they wanted to see, and they took away Eddie Kingston's moment. Omega gets on a microphone and says it would have been great to have Moxley evaporated, but it was great to beat you and make you look awful. While he's cutting the promo, Eddie Kingston walks out and he gets in the ring. Callis says he knows Kingston and he says, "I had this guy in Impact," and he keeps talking about why Kingston got fired. Callis tells Kingston he will let him leave without getting attacked. The clock goes down and he lays down and someone yells, you know what me. I'll just say that. Since we keep a PG on the J.Raw Wrestling Podcast. Omega gets up and he asks Kingston what does he hope to accomplish. Then Omega gets in his face and he won't do anything, and he tells Kingston he can get the first punch in, and Kingston obliges. Kingston throws a punch and everyone attacks Kingston, and Jon Moxley runs out and makes the save. Then another countdown goes off and it's Christian Cage and he comes out. He and Omega face off in the ring, and Omega goes to attack Christian, but Christian stops him attempting to hit the kill switch, but Callis saves Omega. Christian then walks over to the AEW Championship belt, picks it up and look at it. And then AEW heads to a commercial break. All right, we come back from commercial and we get the match with Thunder Rosa, Hikaru Shida, and Ryo Mizunami versus Dr. Britt Baker, Maki Iotaki, and Nyla Rose. All right, now the match ends when AEW takes a picture-in-picture commercial break with Itami and Rose in the ring. Ito goes to throw a few heavy punches in the back of Rose's head with Rose down. Ito tags in Britt Baker. Then Baker gets in some shots, but Rosa makes it over to Rio for the hot tag. Rio clears house. Rio, Hikaru, and Rosa each get to hit the Doctor with different attacks on Baker in the corner. Baker and Rosa are the legal women in the match, but Rosa takes everyone out diving from the top rope. Atari hits Rosa with a swinging DDT after Vicky Guerrero grabs the leg of Rosa. Rosa kicks out of the pin, but then she slams down Iotoi, and she pins Iotoi to get the win. And the match ends, but Baker gets in and hits Rosa in the back with Rebel's crutches. Baker then puts Rosa in a lockjaw. And there you have it, going over with the pinfall is Thunder Rosa, Hikaru Shida, and Ryo Mizunami. All right, now after that, Matt Hardy and Private Party cuts a promo. Hardy says he needs to bring more money in. He needs more people in the group, and he announced that he signed the Butcher, the Blade, and Bunny to his stable. All right, so next up we get the main event, the TNT Championship match, Scorpio Sky versus Darby Allin. All right, now the match ends when Sky goes for a sunset flip, but Darby stops it and goes for a pin attempt, but Sky kicks out at it too. Sky then comes back at Darby with a heavy right. Then Sky goes for another slam, but Allen reverses it into a stunner. Sky backs up and Allen catches him with the cold red after Sky hits the ropes. Darby goes Darby goes for the pin, but Sky kicks out again. Sky then picks up Allen and goes for the Three Amigos, but Darby stops it until Sky hits Allen with the German suplex into the corner turnbuckle. Allen gets Sky into the outside, and Allen goes for a suicide dive, but Sky counters it into a stunner. Sky throws him back into the ring and goes for the pin, but Allen kicks out at 2. Just a short time later, Allen goes in for the coffin drop, but however, Sky counters it into a pin and power bombs Allen and go for the pin, but Allen kicks out. Sky then goes for the brain buster, but Allen counters and gets him with a roll-up pin. Now after the match, Allen goes over to Sky and puts his hand out to a disgruntled Scorpio Sky. When Allen turns around, Sky then attacks, and Allen officially has to come to, and AEW officials have to come out and break it up. Scorpio Sky gets up and shows a smug style look. So, the winner was Darby Allin going over on Scorpio Sky, keeping the TNT match, but the overall story was Scorpio Sky turning heel. So that should be interesting. All right, now, so we finally get the main event segment of the night, and that's the Inner Circle War Council meeting. Now, we get the Inner Circle come out, and Chris Jericho says that they're having some problems, and Jericho hints that they should add another member. MJF quickly disagrees with Jericho and says maybe we should kick someone out. Sammy Guevara's music goes, and he comes out and tells Jericho that he has to show him something. Guevara then shows that he has a camera hidden in the Inner Circle's dressing room. They show the video, and it shows that MJF goes to Hager, Santana, and Ortiz and says it's time to cut out Jericho from the group. MJF says that it's time to kick him out, and MJF says Jericho, he did not want him to find out this way. Jericho pushes down MJF and says he did not want things to go this way, and he tells Jericho that he built his own Inner Circle, and then the lights go out. They come back on, and it's FTR, Shawn Spears, Wardlow, Tully Blanchard, and they brutally attack the Inner Circle. Wardlow and MJF continue to beat on Jericho as they go off the air, with MJF hitting Jericho with his ring. MJF busts open Jericho, and Jericho goes for the bat, but MJF gets it, hit Jericho in the ribs, and then hits him again. The show ends with FTR, Shawn Spears, on top of the stage and power bombs Jericho to the ground. The show ends with FTR, Spears, Wardlow, MJF, and Tully Blanchard all celebrating. And that was Dynamite for last Wednesday, March the 10th. All right, so that was the whole entire AEW recap block. That was Revolution, that was BTE, quick dark recap, and then Dynamite. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was part 1 of episode 18. I'm going to take a little break and then come back with part 2. That'll be the Impact recap. That'll be ROH, New Japan, and some wrestling news. Also my top 10 and the botch and the hot spot of the week. All right. So just hang tight, and I'll be back with part 2 of episode 18. Deuces.